Hey, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. We're Paul on the call. I'm Cris Rivers.
And I'm Mandy Mac.
Yes, and we are here with the amazing national champion and pole coach, Corey Elyse.
Hi.
Yes.
Yay!
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
Yes.
pleasure. OMG. So we'll get right into it with our starter that we haven't changed in 3 years. What brought you into pole dance? What started your pole dance journey?
Okay, this is a fun story. So I was 19 when I started pole dancing, um, which is like 10 years ago now at this point. And um, I had extra, so I went to the University of Missouri, Columbia, we call it Mizzou, and I had extra scholarship money because of just getting some extra scholarships. My mom was a professor there, so I got discounts and I stayed at home. And so Mizzou was paying me to go to school, and then I turned around and used that money to pay for pole classes. So
Yes.
um, Mizzou paid for my pole dancing, and I got started at I just thought it was really cool. I always liked like climbing and just being a very active person, but like in sort of weird ways. I never like really clicked with like any sort of specific sport before, but like pole made sense in my brain, and I liked performing. Um, Sorry, we might have like an extra guest. Sorry, this is Dingus for people who are on the YouTube.
We love it. You said dingus?
Yeah, he's not the brightest guy, but he's very sweet.
I love it. Too funny. So I love that college paid for it. I mean, hey, we need stress relief in college, so it's good that they helped with that.
Yeah, it was really nice because I like my degree is in animal science, and animal science people can sometimes be a bit more on the conservative side. So I didn't really like get along with a lot of my classmates super closely. So it was really nice having pole because all of my friends that I made during college were actually friends that I made at the pole studio. So that's real nice.
I never would have imagined that animal science people would be conservative. You're like, me neither. That's too bad. They could be having so much fun.
I
Yes.
know.
Oh my gosh. But did you say you had a dance background or no, nothing?
No, I didn't do any sort of like sport. I didn't The most background I had was I did a lot of theater. And so like when I decided to like pursue animal science as my degree, I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing theater because that was the other thing. I'd like looked into a bunch of different like a bunch of different theater programs, and then was like, no, I think there's probably more job stability over here. So I'll pursue a career, like I'll pursue a degree in this. And then, but I really miss performing. And so I liked that there was sort of a dance performance thing that I could do. And then I feel like most dance is not geared towards adults who don't have a dance background starting. And so like a lot of things are like, here's a ballet class, but it's for like ex ballerinas. And you're like, well, I'm not that. So it was nice finding a place where it's like, okay, I can dance, I can do some cool stuff, I can perform, and I can start this all as an adult with zero background in, you know, anything athletic.
I love it. Do you find that your theater background ended up helping you with pole dance in the long run?
Yeah, it's definitely influenced a lot of how I perform and how I like approach telling stories and doing a bit more like kind of physical humor, sort of like little, like I think of putting in like gags in my piece of like, okay, this is a little silly bit and here's like a moment to let this shine to like help create these stories. And so it's definitely like helped with the stage presence and all of that, and like being able to get on stage and be like, okay, yeah, I can do this now. So um, it's definitely had its impact.
Right, when you said you had a theater background, I was like, that's what it is. Because like both those pieces that I watched from yours were just like, I was like, wow, how did you come up with that? It was just, like brilliant stories, like props, and like not just brilliant story, but like the choreography went just along with it all, and it was perfect.
Thank you. It's yeah, it's definitely like has helped. And even figuring out like, okay, here's props and here's what I need to do to make them work well or like look good on stage or like figuring out the kind of props. Because even if I was like in high school, if I didn't get into a play, I still would do like tech crew. So I had a lot of like background doing prep in dealing like with those shenanigans. So like it definitely made me like no, this has to have a story and it needs to like be really clear. So
I love that. May I ask, do you have any advice for others who may be struggling with making a story and might need some?
yeah. Um so I always this is gonna sound I judge people too, and I stand fully by this. Pretend that the judges are dumb. We're not very smart. You need to spoon feed us. Um, so like make it really clear, like this is what's going on. And don't be afraid to like use overlays of music or like voiceovers or combining like songs. If it's something that helps translate like what this piece is about, use it, go for it. Like you can't, you know, like you can't overdo it so far as like making sure that the judges and the audience knows because you're always still going to have some judge that's like I don't quite get it and you're like this was really clear but so spoon feed them and if you can think about sort of that beginning middle and end and it's true like it goes back to like that English class like storyboard kind of thing where it's like can you say what the rise of the piece was, where's the conflict, like you don't have to go that extreme but like it is helpful.
Right, no, that's awesome. That's a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
Um, like I have a modern dance background, and I think like whenever I feel like I'm telling a story, it's really just I'm emoting. So missing the theater part of it is detrimental, and this is good advice to fill in those spaces.
Love it.
I've
Yeah.
like done emoting pieces before and I'm like this is so clear, they're gonna totally know what's going on, and I've had judges that are like I don't know if this was like supposed to be melancholy or if it was happy or bittersweet. I kind of think this, and I was like, what?
Too funny. I do like the advice about storybooking as well, because I storybook, but I do it differently, and I never thought about adding the ideas that you learned in school of the conflict and the escalation to it and all that small stuff to help build a story.
It's been really helpful, and then I've also like been able to work with really great like people who are really great for storytelling and who always encourage me to do my storytelling. Where like I had a private the other day and to work on a piece that I have coming up, and we spent like 15 minutes talking about like, okay, but what motive do we give to the human prop to get out of the chair? Like, why do they get up from the chair? And what do we have to do to trigger the situation to get them to get up from the chair? And I was like, this is taking a lot of time on like this one tiny thing.
I love it. That would be fun. So many possibilities. Dr. Frankenstein, love potion.
Oh, the stories. It's great. I think Poll is like a super stellar, amazing way to to tell stories and create pieces and evoke emotion. Like I've always really loved the like performance, emoting, feeling side of Poll. It's great.
Yes. So when did you start making the transition from student to, I want to ask, teaching and even competing, or we can get into competing after.
Okay. So, I started competing before I started teaching. And then when I started teaching, I graduated from undergrad, and then I started my like first big kid job, and I was still in Columbia, Missouri, at my like home studio, and they were looking for more instructors. And so uh my home studio, like where I started, was Musical Fitness in Columbia, Missouri, and Jordan Mazer, who owns it, was wonderful. And she came up and she, asked if I wanted to teach, and I was like, yeah, this would be awesome. And I really love how they got me onboarded for teaching, where we took our time, and it started with a lot of, okay, I'm subbing classes and a lot of shadowing and taking notes on classes, and then teaching and receiving feedback. So it really, I felt like it set me up well to like teach a variety of classes. Um, and then in more recent years, that's become something that I really, really enjoy now, as I've like slowed down how much I'm competing. I really love teaching, and I love working with people who are coming up with their pieces. And like, I really love prop work. So like when I have students that are like, I had a student recently and she had a pillow in a piece, and I was like, yes, this is the best thing. Let's figure out all the cool things we can do with this pillow. And so I enjoy my transition to teaching. So I've been teaching since 2018, so 6 years. And
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 you said, oh, sorry.
go right ahead.
No, I was like, you've been teaching for 6 years, but then you said you were competing before then.
I've
Um,
been competing for 8 years. I started at middle in 2016, and I placed dead last in my division.
but that's awesome that you did it. That didn't stop you. You were like, no.
It was cool. It was definitely the thing that was like, okay, you've got to figure out how to do that. And it was me like trying to do a dramatic piece and be like trying to pretend like I have a modern dance background, and I do not have a dance background. And I was like, you cannot show up to this, Corey, and act all like sad and emoting, and like you can dance away from the pole, and you need to fix your feet. And so it was definitely a learning experience, and it definitely was a thing that like drove me to be like, okay, you've got to like train your toe point. You can't just do bendy things and call it a day. Like if you want to compete, you know, you got to do it.
Yes, and clearly it worked because ever since then, you still competing and even won.
It's a fun journey of like figuring out a style of movement and like what I can take and make my own. And so like my my competing story is kind of interesting that like I started 2 years in, and then within a year of competing, I qualified to like move up to like level 5 for PSO. So that's where like you can start qualifying for nationals and stuff there. I did not qualify for nationals for quite a while. I stayed there for a while, but it was like interesting where I went from like amateur to, oh, I have to compete with like professionals. And so for a while I was like, I got into it's called the North American Pole Dance Championships. It used to happen in Chicago, and I got in like the Midwest Elite. They had a person drop out like a month before the comp, and I had a piece already, and I was the alternate. And I like emailed Mary Ellen at the time, and I was like, "Pat, I have a piece," and I saw that this person who was in this division dropped out, and as the alternate, can I do this? And she was like, "You've got like 3 hours to get me your bio, your info, and all this, because I am headed to print this stuff out. So like, you gotta like send it." I was like, "Okay, can do." And then I went to it, and my friend and I were there, and I'm also competing in like the same division as Jordan Mazer. I'm like, Jordan owns a studio. She's fantastic and amazing. I'm like competing with all these super stellar people. And another friend and fellow instructor was there, and we were like, woo, we're gonna be team bottom half. And like it was this running joke of like, yeah, team bottom half. And now like I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not not always part of team bottom half anymore, but
Yes. Team verse half, team top and bottom.
versatile. You can switch.
I
Right,
love it.
I'll hold down team bottom half while you're away.
Funny. Team top half too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here for team you got on stage and you did the damn thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Just hard enough in itself. So, which has been your favorite competition so far? It seems you've been able to perform in quite a few.
Yeah. Um, I love PSO. I think it's always going to have like a very near and dear place to my like in my heart because it's where I started and I'm just really comfortable on their stage. They're always fantastic. I love that I can go to wherever and I'm going to get like a great experience. I'm like they have fantastic humans that work for them. I'm a little biased there because some of them are my friends, but I think they're awesome. So, um, and then I have really pole theater, both pole theaters. I've attended Pole Theater Canada and Pole Theater USA, and I really, really love them. They, again, they're like, they let me have like an artistic say, and I can kind of get a little wild with it and bring way too many props on stage, and no one bats an eye or says that I can't have them.
Right, you had a whole garden. Oh my God, the hammer was so funny though. Like
Oh my,
it like squished.
shout out. Okay, I can't claim any skills in making this hammer. I I'm a huge fan of find people like you can learn how to do a couple skills really awesome, but you probably can't do everything and it takes a village. So like find some friends. So like my friend Mallory, her fiance Mike does all of my music edits. If you ever hear a voice that's over in any of my things, it's Mike. Mike did all three different voices for my mole piece. Like he did a crotchety old man, he sang a jingle, and he did my little mole voice, and he spliced four different songs together. Like, shout out to Mike, way to go. And then I had my friend Dana and Pung O'Connor, and she worked on all of my props. So she made my mole hands that I had, and she made the giant hammer, and she was awesome and just like super stellar. She does a lot of cosplay stuff, and so it was great like having people who was like, awesome, you can do that and you can do that, and I will just, you know, craft with hot glue to make the rest of these props and choreograph this piece.
Oh my gosh, what was it like pole dancing with those gloves on? It
Terrifying.
was like a whole extra part of your hand.
Yeah. They go over they went over the top of my hand. And so like I could move my fingers. They had little like elastics that attached here and at my wrist. But it was so weird. So it's like I could do a twisted grip phoenix, but I couldn't do a regular invert to like an outside leg hang because the mole hands would get stuck. And so like there's a decided lack of inverts in that piece, and it's because of those mole hands. And so it was finding out like all the ways of like, okay, I choreographed this piece, and now I can't do some sections of it, so I have to like re-choreograph the piece. And they were also sweaty. They were like kind of like hot, and so they just were like my hand grip just went a lot faster. It's already like my worst grip point, and like it just went faster in the pieces. And I was like, oh, it was it was a choice that I made, and I'm happy I made it. But it's not one of those that I'd recommend doing. It's a lot of heartache.
It was super adorable. I loved it.
It helped.
I was wondering, I was like, wow, there's a lot of Aishas.
No, it helped sell the piece because I was like, well, how else am I gonna be a mole? And I had someone who was like, well, you could make a nose piece, and I was like, that's gonna be even worse. Like this is It's like, we can't do that. I'm gonna, you won't be able to breathe. This is,
You ended up winning for that piece though, correct?
yeah.
Yeah,
I, yeah, Pole Theater USA, the pro comedy division of that piece. It was a blast. I was really happy to like have a stage where I could bring mole harasses entire garden, causes chaos to the stage.
I love that. So you've won quite a few pro competitions. Does that mean you get multiple pro cards?
I don't, so I know PSO does their pro card, and,
Uh-huh.
and other places, it's more of like, well, because now I did pro with PSO, I can't go back, I can't do anything else. So like
Huh.
when Mallory and I, we did doubles for Pole Theater USA for the drama division and also for Pole Theater Canada, and she could still compete. She could qualify to still be able to compete at semi-pro. And I remember when we were like applying, and she's like, realized that I was like her doubles partner, and she's like, "We have to do pro, don't we?" And I was like, "Yeah, we do. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She's like, "Dang it." I'm like, "And you know you can't really go back after this." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, tough titties.
Oh,
Gotta do it.
so are there like rules? Like what happens if you didn't do pro? Are they gonna like hunt you down?
Um, I'll probably get like a talking to from the organizer, like, "Hey, did you mean to do this?"
Interesting. Like,
Um,
I guess it's like sandbagging or something.
yeah, it's a big issue with like sandbagging, and I personally am like, I don't ever want to. Even when I like first moved to pro, my only goal was like, I just want to make it look like I belong in this division. Like someone didn't accidentally just like let this random person walk in off the street. And so I really like, for me, that's a thing that I take seriously where I'm like, no, like you have to do the correct thing. And I push my students also where like, because I feel like so many people get really afraid of like moving up. And there's this big like, ooh, spooky cloud around like doing semi-pro or pro. And I'm like, honestly, they're some of the nicest people. They know the ropes. There's it's super chill backstage. Like I love doing pro for PSO because you usually get like your own stage testing time. You get the backstage area all to yourself. You probably like, at least in the Midwest, we know like all the people who are competing. And so like we hang out, we have a good time. Like you're like legitimately just like super excited for whoever wins because you're like, these are my buddies and I've been backstage with you guys a million times at this point. And so um yeah, I feel like it's not as scary. Move up. If you think you're on the line, move up. Do it. Like it's great.
Right? And even if you move up, like, and you don't win, like, someone's still got to be last place.
Yeah, you didn't. Oh, we would stay forever. Like I would not have grown as a pole dancer if I stayed in like level 4 at PSO or like high amateur levels for a really long time. Like I think being pushed into pro was like this thing of like, okay, I have to like have to get good at this. Like I want to look like I belong here and I like winning. Um or like so I want to, I want to do well and I got to make sure I'm training and stuff, and it keeps you from getting like complacent if that's like a concern of yours. But I think it's great. Every move up. If you're on the line, move up. It's not scary. And the people are really nice.
Right. It's so refreshing to hear you say that because I absolutely felt like that too. We're like, I have to make it look like I belong here.
You're like, oh crap. I don't want them to think that just I made a mistake and like they let this person show up. And I was like, oh no, I just need to like make it belong, like look like I belong in this division. And especially like coming from a background, it's like I don't have a dance background. And so like having all these people who are like, they're like, oh yes, before I did this, I did 7 years of gymnastics. So this and this and this. And I'm like, I can do funny stuff on stage.
You're like, I have these mole hands.
I love it. But it's awesome. It shows that you could do anything you want and still win. It doesn't have to be like hardcore tricks. Like tell your story, have a fun story.
Yes. And it's like how I view it as like a okay, if you're in an artistic division, usually a good chunk of your score is just like, can you tell a story? And I'm like, I can control that. I can completely 110% control that going into comp. And so, and I can control my stage presence. So it like leaves things where it's like, okay, like maybe the grip's not great and my quality of execution gets a little sloppy or something. Like, but I already controlled for like this other giant section of the score. So like just yeah, I like planning. It also makes you less nervous on the day of if you're like, I can like logic myself out of things. I'm like, okay, it's all right. You did this work. Everything's okay. The giant hole is not going to open up in the middle of the stage and swallow you, and you're not going to spontaneously lose your splits. You're going to be like,
Hell yeah.
Too funny.
I like that. You can like trick yourself because you're just within your story and you just have to do the story.
like we can just do this. We're like, I've always joked, I'm like, oh, well, if I mess up horribly, I'll figure out something to do. Like I did a piece with a pillow and I was like to lazy song and I was like, well, I just really hate my first pass. I'll just go take a nap on stage, I guess. They can't fault me for like not committing to my concept then. It did not come to that. I did the whole piece, but it was like oh, I stuck to the concept.
It's always good to have the alternate plan just in case.
Yes, it's better than walking off without bowing.
Mm.
Oh,
Yes.
huge pet peeve of mine. I'm like, stop it. Go bow, please.
Too funny. OMG. Goodness. Where are you teaching now? Because you're not in, are you still in Missouri?
No, so about a year ago, I moved to Indiana for my like day job, and um, I'm in Lafayette, Indiana now, and I work at Purdue, so I just switched universities. But I drive down to Carmel, Indiana. It's right outside of Indianapolis, and I teach at Chrome Fitness that's down there. And the fun, okay, this is a fun story. So Marcy Kerr owns Chrome, and her and Jordan, who owns Muse, went to high school together. They were in the same like graduating class. And so it's just like this funny thing of like they went to this random high school in Indiana together and graduated, and two people from the high school like went on to start these amazing pole studios. And so it's a really fun, like that was how Marcy like knew that I was moving. It was that Jordan was like, hello, I have an instructor. She's leaving for, normal human reasons. And she's moving to Indiana. Take her.
It's such a small world.
Network.
Yeah, I love it. Like the number of people I've met through pole or like, and just then I'm able to travel and you can see people and it's great. And also like having friends who, because I've done pole in towns that are like college towns, you get a really high turnover of like college students start, they get their degree, they, have to move then once they graduate. And so it's been really nice, like knowing all these people and being able to like go and travel and see them or know that like, oh, I'm going to travel for a pole event and you'll be there. And so I'll get to see you there. And I think that's like a really fun community aspect of it.
Love it.
I agree. I can't wait to do more with time. Competing's so expensive.
I like showing up now and I just sign up to judge. It's great. It's like no stress. Or my favorite thing, human prop for someone. It's great. You get all the joy. If they do well, you're like, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of them. I'm just as equally excited, but so much less stress. So much less stress.
I love that. It's clever.
Like it gets you on stage, but you don't have to be like super stressed out about doing things.
Yes. OMG. I'm down for that. Mandy, when you're doing a piece, I'll be your human prop. Let me stop.
Yes.
Oh,
Right, when will I?
let me stop my tangents. Do you teach online?
So
Can people find you? We're gonna have all your links in the notes and comments.
yay. So I teach in person at Chrome, but their stretch classes, they're called Elastichrome. All their things are Chrome named. It's I went from a Muse, everything was cat themed, and Chrome, everything has like Chrome in the name, and so it's this fun little thing where I'm like, okay, I used to teach flexi felines, and now I teach Elastichrome. um, And so Elastichrome does have a virtual option, which is really great. I love that that is available. So people can sign up and you can either take it virtually as it's happening, or you can sign up and get a recording and then do the recording for the next 7 days, which I think is awesome because sometimes the classes happen at times when you're like, well, this doesn't work for me, or like time zones, they exist. um, and then I teach virtually, like I teach virtual privates, usually in stretch, but I can do pole and some other things and a lot of like prep work. So people want to do virtual privates, you just DM me, slide into my DMs and ask about virtual privates, and I will send you a whole calendar with my availability.
Yes, I love that.
Love
And
it.
have all those links in the comments, y'all, in the comments of the notes.
Yes. Right. The
Oh,
next time I do compete, I'm definitely going to hit you up and be like, does this have a story?
Oh, also, yeah, I also I've started doing this with some like studios comp teams where they'll send me their videos and stuff, and I send them back all the typed up notes. So that's another thing that if people are ever like, I'm working on something and I just need an outside set of eyes, um, I will out there as the judge, and I will tippy check all my notes, and I will let you know when I go, I don't know what the hell's going on. Are you missing something?
I'd be so forever grateful.
yeah, that sounds like another service you could charge for. Let me
Yes, right. Learn from a champion.
I love it. I love getting to work with people and they're like, I got a piece. And I'm like, yes, let's do this. What do you want to do? Let's get wild with it.
I love it. Yes. Do you happen to have a favorite pole trick?
Ooh, okay. Um, so I really like doing a lot of bendy moves. I think right now I'm having a little bit of a love affair with buoy bends. I like sometimes called buoy bends. I think they're great. And there's a really cool little cross contorted version that you can do where you just like magically hug the pole with your side and sort of like absorb the pole up into your spleen basically and magically stay in the air, and it's great.
Absorb the pole. That's a new, different grip that I haven't tried yet.
Feels like it. I'm like, does it feel like the pole is personally violating your kidney? Awesome, you're doing it right.
Just grab that pole with your kidney.
Oh my, that sounds so painful. So you've had to practice extra contortion, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so I worked with a contortion coach. I started in the pandemic when you had so much time to do everything. um I started working with a contortion coach because I was like flexible, and I didn't have a ton of flexibility going in. I had more probably than the average person starting out, but I could gain flexibility really quickly. And I think part of that I will like account. I think it's genetics. Like my sister could kick the back of her head standing up, and I, I was far from as flexible as them, but like there are some genetic things. I think there's maybe some uh, connective tissue disorders that maybe are not diagnosed that run in my family. That is another thing that needs to probably be looked into. Um, but I started working with a contortion coach because I was like, well, I've I've got all these great resources, but they're great for like general flexibility. And I was like wanting to start working on like chest stands and other sort of shapes and things. And so I started working with a fantastic contortion coach. Their name is Ariana Berber Carter, also accepting more I can send you their Instagram too and stuff. They're fantastic. I love them. They're great if you're like a little neuro spicy and want to like do some weird, awesome contortion stuff or hand balancing things, just a stellar human. And so I started working with Ariana, and I was actually working on my contortion helped really build like a lot of my shoulder strength and arm strength and also my butt. So do back bends, you get a bigger booty. It's great if you need motivation to work on your back bends. There's that. And so I got really strong, and it helped with like, in turn, then helped with my pull stuff and like having control of like, oh, okay, this is the part of my spine that needs to articulate for this versus in this move, I need to do more of this and like some side bending. And it like definitely helped me out a lot. And it's been helpful when I have like suspected hypermobile students to get them to like, okay, we got to wrangle your limbs. Like, let's start it now, because I started wrangling my limbs only like 60. I started wrangling my limbs 6 years into pole. I really wish I had started earlier.
Same.
You actually have like you have the proper diagnosis of things, don't you?
As far as I was allowed to go because there is the genetic test, which I'm not. Yeah, maybe one day I'm allowed to get that for my insurance, but yeah, just the
Insurance is,
regular, you know.
I know, insurance is stupid. It
Yeah.
pisses
Yeah,
me.
but the regular diagnosis for the HEDS, your doctor can. There's like a little checklist. It's like bending your pinky, bending
Mhm.
your thumb, elbows, knees. Can you
Yeah.
touch the floor? And then there's your diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to like look into getting like the official sort of things, because it's like it's a suspected thing. And I have multiple friends with like HEDS, and they're like,
Yeah.
and talks like a duck. I'm like,
Right.
"Hmm,
All right.
Right. I feel like most of us are just because we all are like, oh, I'm naturally flexible. Let's be a pole dancer.
and it's such an important thing of like approaching your students as if like, okay, let's just, if I assume that they're all like have some weird hypermobility, I'm not going to hurt any of them. And I'm going to protect a lot of them in the long run. And it just seems like a smart thing to do. I don't know. That's just like part of my like philosophy of approach. But yeah.
Yes. I love
Mhm.
that.
I want to ask, like, because I do a lot of yoga to improve my flexibility. What would you say is kind of like the difference between the yoga and the contortion to get us to where we need flexibility wise?
Yeah. So I found contortion, like yoga can be really nice for like gaining flexibility, and contortion is like wrangling the flexibility you have for tricks. So I think of it as like it's a whole other like circus discipline in and of itself. So like when people are like, oh, I cross train and do lyra or another aerial apparatus, like, or I do hand balancing. Contortion is like another little aspect of it. So like a lot of things I worked on was like, okay, let's do forearm balances and different transitions through my back bends and ways in and out of them, and like different shapes in my back bends and getting really cozy moving around in them. Um, and just like in chest stands and also in like crocks and other little like presses that are low to the ground was like a lot of the helpful stuff, or like working on standing needle scales and things. And then my coach has always been really wonderful when I'm like, hi, here's a pole move. And I know that you don't do pole, but like, let's think about it. And they're great for figuring out those things, like explaining like, okay, so there's a Marchenko and this is what you do for it. What tips you got? And they're like, all right, let's work on your standing needles. This is going to be interesting.
Step
Okay.
one.
Oh, thank you for that. I've been thinking how to improve my flexibility, and I'm like, well, I don't even know if I want to spend money on contortion. I don't understand the difference.
There's a lot of like great, I think there's a lot of great, like a lot of contortion coaches also offer a lot of great stretch classes that are like, if you want your ass just handed to you in a stretch class, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea, but is the thing that I like. Like, you know how some people get like a runner's high? I don't get a runner's high, but I get a stretching high and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. You want me to do a bunch more Cobra lifts? Awesome.
I am the same. I am the same way. I love it.
Yes. Ooh, yeah. You would love like some of the like the active flex classes that like different various contortionists offer. They're awesome. They're so
Yeah,
great.
get me into it. I'll hold it for a while. Let me stop. Safely, of course, safely. I didn't get to ask, do you have a pole nemesis trick?
Yes, I do. I very much do. So fongies scare me an irrational amount. Like, and I'm friends with like Mallory just like casually is doing fongies all the time. And I'm like friends with these people that are like, which fongie variation should I put in my piece? And I'm like, I'm absolutely terrified shitless. Like it's been years since I've worked on them and I probably should go back and like work on them now that I'm like have my limbs a little bit more wrangled, but it's like dynamic things are hard. When you're like just kind of noodly, it's like so many limbs I gotta control.
Oh my gosh, I feel the same.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Oh my God. Do you use a specific pole and body grip? I know
Mhm.
you said your grip wasn't working with those mole hands.
I was just sweating through my grip with those mole hands. So um I'm like really religious about what I do for like my skincare regimen when I'm like going to compete. And so like the day before I compete, I will shave, which I know not everyone will, but I will shave and I use like a sensitive skin like gel, like one of those like shaving creams. I use that and then I put on just the tiniest amount of lotion. And that is, I know, like an unpopular thing, but it works for me. And my skin is so grippy and it's amazing. And then if I have to do like, if I'm doing double stuff or have like a really weird grip point, I like to use eye tack. Um, just as for extra skin grip. And then for my hands, so I like girly grip or I like arid plane. Both of those are really, I find they work well with my hands and my feet. So I do a lot of like foot mounty kind of things. But before I put grip on my hands, I wash my hands with toothpaste. So I just some like basic bitch. I think I went out like the Crest Scope toothpaste. So it's like minty fresh. And you just put like a little 2 peas worth or pea-sized dollop worth on your hands. You rub them together and you just like rinse it off under like water. You don't need any soap. You dry your hands and it dries your hands out in advance and it makes the like grip that you're putting on last longer. And I find also as a nervous person before I perform or compete, I have a tendency to like want to over tap. And eventually that just becomes a slippery mess and it doesn't work very well. But with toothpaste, I can just keep going and washing my hands with toothpaste. It takes longer than over tack, like than putting on more tack or grip. So like it's enough to like slow me down. And if you wash your hands with toothpaste a bunch, it doesn't affect your grip. Your knuckles are gonna be really dry, but you will stick to the pole still. So
And
the cheapest pole grip you'll ever own.
did you get this advice from someone else or did you try a bunch of different?
I can't claim this. This was a Jordan Mazer thing. She was like, have you tried toothpaste? And I was like, what? But then I was like, this is actually amazing. I love it. And then I like when I went to Chrome, I started telling people about it and I've like turned them on to it where I'm like, yeah, you gotta like, there's only like one real awkward moment in front of a class where you're like, let me go wash my hands with toothpaste. And everyone's like, what? What did this new person say? Like, I know she's new here, but like, what is going on?
Love it. Oh my God, that's awesome. We're adding to our list of household things, shaving cream and now toothpaste.
Do it, get it. It's great. And then like, you're always gonna have toothpaste with you probably when you're traveling, or like in Canada, I ran out of my like toothpaste that was in my toiletry kit, and I was like, well, I'll just go grab my grip bag then.
Perfect. Love it. I This has certainly been the most creative concoction of hand grip.
It's also from someone where like my hands, they're like sweaty little messes. They're gonna be the first grip point to go. Like the rest of my body will like hold on for forever, and my hands are like, "Oh,
Oh my gosh, I'm the exact opposite.
I wish I would love to have some hand grip. There's times where I'm like, when are you you're trying to put it at the very don't do that.
No. Oh, well, do you have any pole philosophies to share?
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple things. One, cross training is great. Please do it. It's wonderful. Even if it's just finding a different apparatus and it's not like going to the gym and doing conditioning or something, like there's so many ways that you can cross train that will be helpful for your body. And then when you're trying to figure things out, and like, especially if you don't have a dance background and you're trying to figure out how your body likes moving, because everybody's different. And I think it's a great way to get in touch with it. I call it going on a movement journey, but it's just like freestyling or finding a move and going, okay, well, where does my body want to go from this move? And like, those have been some of the greatest like things where it's like, oh, I found a really weird transition, and like, creates those moments where you're like, oh, well, no one else is going to be doing this because I just came up, like, I just did this thing and stumbled into it. And so it's really nice for like finding all those moments and figuring out like how your body wants to move, or if like you're given moves that are like, oh, I like this, but I don't really like this transition out of it or this transition into whatever the next move is. It's nice just figuring out like, okay, well, what does my body want to do and what can we like play to the strengths of? And then when you're getting choreography help from other people, it's okay to say no. And I always encourage my students to say no. Like if I'm throwing out ideas, it is me just spitballing ideas to you. And like I have great relationships with all the people that help me with choreography where I can go and be like, that's really awesome. Or like maybe that looks really cool on you, or I wish I had the time in the piece to do this, but it's not sitting well in my body, or it's not what I envisioned. Like, or this is cool, let's leave it on the table, but like maybe we don't use it, we'll come back to it, like let me think about it, or play with it some and see how it fits in my body. Like it's okay to say no to choreography. Say no to your like say no when you're getting like choreo help. It will create a much better piece for you.
I love that you gave that advice because it's true. A lot of students are afraid to say no, and they should be okay to say no because it's their piece.
Your piece, it's gonna show up on stage. You're the one doing it. I'm not doing it for you. Like I can't dance moms in the audience. Um, you gotta like do the piece and look cozy doing it, because it sucks really when you see someone doing a piece and you're like, oh, I don't think I don't think that's your choreography. Like I don't think that's the choreography that feels good on your body. And it's, just it sucks to see that. And so it's like, no, find the things that work for you.
Yes, so true. And the cross training bit too, also so very important, y'all.
Yes.
Yes. I love that you also called it, instead of freestyle, a movement journey, which I'll probably start saying because sometimes freestyle is like intimidating. People will be like, freestyle, but if we say movement journey,
Yeah.
that makes a little bit more.
Yeah, we're exploring. We're kind of it's our time to take some where your body wants to go, and it's great and it's silly, and you can, I feel like, yeah, sometimes it's freestyle. We also get like, oh, I need to like make this perfect. And it's like, no, it's an explorative time. Like, get weird with it.
It's experiment. It's experimental movement. um, I love those dance philosophies. Thank you so much for sharing those. What do you have coming up soon? Any competitions, any performances? What's going on?
So much. I don't have any competitions lined up as of this moment. I have multiple times in the past been like, I think I've 2 or 3 times been like, I'm gonna retire from competing after this. And then that was a lie. And then I went on and competed more. And then I was like, I'm gonna retire from nope, that was also a lie. So at this point, I'm just not making any promises about competing. Like probably, honestly, probably I will find something. And then for things that I have coming up, so since I won the artistic pro last year for PSO, they are very kind and they invite you back and you get to showcase if you want. So I get to showcase and judge, and the thing I'm really excited about is I get to wear a fancy dress and I can stand on stage and I get to pass out, like give the medal to the next person, which I'm really excited about. So I will be at PSO Nationals showcasing, and then the weekend after, Vertical Desires. It's a professionally sexy show that's happening in Columbia, Missouri. Muse, Jordan and Leah from Muse put it on, and when I was living in Columbia, I was in a lot of their group numbers, and it's a super cool show because it's like 50% soloists that they're bringing in from like around the country or even internationally. Like I think one of the headliners is from like Canada this year. And then it's another like half of it is all group pieces ranging from like 3 to sometimes 19 people on stage. And so it's really cool that you have so many really well choreographed group pieces. So the theme is 7 Deadly Sins. I'm going to be greed. I don't know what night of the show I'm going to be on, but get tickets if anyone's randomly in Missouri in late August. Check out Vertical Desires. And then if anyone's randomly in Indianapolis in late October, check out Hell on Heels because I got into that. That's put on by Alyssa Rudner, and it's a fun, sexy show. So it'll be great.
That's exciting. So many things going on over there in that side of the country. We need to visit over there more.
The Midwest has like a surprisingly fantastic pole community because we don't have much else to do here. There's just corn and soy. And so we're like, yeah, we should pole dance. And there's just like a lot of really stellar pole studios, which I think is like this really cool, fun thing. So check out the Midwest. If anyone ever is driving through, I promise we have more things going on. Than
I love
on
that.
to.
I'm gonna have to start couch surfing or something. Manly, that's how we're gonna do our tour. Couch surf on other pole dancers' couches.
Right.
I'm so down.
I
Whose
got a
couch?
whole guest room.
Yes.
Yes, don't tell me it's a good time.
Hole on the Call couch tour.
Yes.
Coming
Love
to
it.
your couch.
And then we can finally do Pokemon.
Yes. And everything else.
Just do it. Isn't Polcon's going to be in both Baltimore and Denver this next year? Just do a little road trip. Yeah, they're having two Polcons next year. Do a little road trip from the East Coast and bibbity boppity boop your way through the Midwest to Denver.
Oh wow, two. Oh my goodness. Now I don't that's
That's like a whole year trip.
great.
Go on tour.
I did not even know that. See, we're always learning so much stuff. We learned so much today. I did not know they're doing two Pokemons.
Right, I didn't know either.
And we literally
And
just interviewed
there's a
her.
virtual one too, I saw.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on. The Colleen is a busy.
Right?
Yes.
What I was like so surprised. I was like, how do you do all this stuff? And she just said spreadsheets.
I love spreadsheets. I'm starting to understand though. I've been using the spreadsheets more and she onto something.
Stellar. She like performed in the pole. So she's like, running everything during PoleCon. And her and I were both in the pole comedy showcase. And she like does the showcase, goes back to the front area to like keep checking people in, keep running stuff, and then comes back up for like pictures at the end and then is back at it. I was like, you are hustling. Like, I don't know when you warmed up. And I know you did a bop and a spatchcock in this piece. So, like, when did you warm up, Colleen?
Goodness, I want to be like her when I grow up.
Same, same.
Too funny. That's excited. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see all that happening on your social media, which will be in the comments and notes for everyone.
Yay. One
Uh,
of the perks of having like an oddball name is that my name always gets me my username for things. And it's my favorite thing. It's like, thanks, parents, for giving me a good name.
too funny. Uh, where do you hope to see yourself in 5, maybe 10 years with pole dancing?
Ooh, okay. Um, I think at some point I will eventually actually stop competing, but I really like competitions, so I will probably still like try to get in as much as I can for like I like judging, I like watching competitions, and I really like helping people like find their way to the competition stage and getting to the point where they feel comfortable there and like they can thrive there. Um, I definitely hope to continue teaching and working with like I like working with bendy people and getting us to wrangle our limbs and um, working just like I've started finding more joy in creating choreo and stuff for other people, which is fun. So like hopefully just involved in doing things. I'm sure it's gonna be a part of my life. Like I have a really supportive fiance who's always like, yeah, you do you. Like he's the biggest cheer supporter when I'm doing like competitions and everything. He gives the best pep talk. So I'm sure like with his support, I've got this. Like he's here to support me while I compete for as long as I can, and then he's gonna go support all of my students because vicariously it is supporting me. So he's great at it.
It always makes
Hey,
it easier when they are supportive.
Yeah,
right? Shout out to the support.
yes. Like thank you for hauling all of my props around for me. Uh, and driving my ass across the country so I can be a little passenger princess.
Too funny. I love that. I hope that that all comes to fruition, and I can't wait to see it for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we forgot the nutrition.
The nutrition. Do you have
Oh,
any nutrition tips to share?
eat a lot of protein. I eat eat protein, drink water. It's really important. Those are the things that like have definitely impacted me. And no, figure out what your body likes to consume and what it doesn't mind. And so like I know that so many people like they're like, oh, this is my safe food that I'm gonna eat like before I compete because it's not gonna upset my stomach or like things that they feel more comfortable eating. And like my stomach, I have the stomach of a Labrador Retriever. Nothing is going to upset my stomach. It's fine. I will consume garbage, but I still definitely notice a difference on like I'm like, okay, for me, like Indian food sits really well with my body. It's like this is great. Here, have some Indian food or like some Thai food or something. Like do something spicy that sits great and it's fine, like fantastic. Versus like I feel more bloated if I eat like a burger and fries. And so like figuring out like what works for your body and then doing it.
I love that. I believe it.
Love it.
Indian food is definitely far cleaner, more spices, more herbs. A burger, oh, I cannot pull after a burger.
Yeah.
Mm. It's
Yep.
like before nationals, not this past year, but the previous year I was there competing and I didn't win, but I did well. I was fine. I placed right behind Ashley Fox. I will take that. And so yeah, that was like our thing like the night before and we're like sitting there and I'm like, oh, let's order Indian food and my fiance's like, is this the good choice for you? And I was like, yes, it is, babe. Yes, it is.
Oh my, I'm gonna have to have Indian food. It's been a while. Now I'm craving
Right?
it.
It sounds so good. You gotta,
So
yeah.
It is.
I was
Uh,
thinking too about your competition training. And this is not nutrition, but like as far as like training for your body, do you have like different cross training that you do while you're competition training, or do you rest?
I always take, and I've started doing this more whenever I go to compete, I will take like the 2 to 4 days off beforehand. And I find that my body does so well when I like give it the proper rest. Um, and then going into comp training, making sure that I still do like I have a wrist that gets mad, so I got to do my wrist PT, and I got a shoulder that gets grumpy. So like making sure that I don't give up on those things and like still try to train both sides. And something that's really helpful for me is I always, when I'm teaching like my advanced classes, and this helps me do both sides too, is I teach portions of my combos. And one, it makes planning classes really easy. And two, it lets me do the things on my bad side. So I'm like evening them out and I'm still training things and still working on it and like thinking about it. And then it's also like, again, this is one of those moments where like students are afraid to move up and they're like afraid to level up. But like, it's something where you can concretely show them and be like, well, I, over the course of 4 weeks, taught you my static pass, and you did it. So why can't you? Like, can you tell me again why you can't move up a level? Because I think you can. Um, and I think that's kind of a nice little way to like get them to get really confident. And also you get to like, it does double duty.
Yes, I love that so much. That's super empowering because like you already did it.
You did my pass. So like, and this when your own choreography, like what would happen if you made it your own? Like,
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Mhm. Do you have any other advice to share for pole dancers or competitors?
um, be nice to people backstage. We're all stressed out. Someone just probably wants a buddy. And also like don't take it too hard if someone is like a little standoffish. They're probably nervous. I've met plenty of people where I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like, oh no, never mind. We're actually like best friends now. Like there was just one of those moments where you like catch them and it's weird. Um, and like really think through your piece and look at your score sheet. Look what you're being scored on. If you really want to like do well and you're not just like creating a piece to create a piece, which is also completely valid and fantastic. And sometimes you're just doing that because you're like, well, when else am I gonna put this weirdness on stage? Um, just check out what the score sheet is. It is really helpful. Please read your competitor packet. As a person who is friends with people who run competitions and work for competitions, I'm going to make this little plug for them. Please read your competitor packet. It has so many answers to all of your questions. And then also, it's just a good, and that might be like part of it is like I work in like research areas. And so like my brain's like, yeah, read the packet. It's just research. But like just go do your own look at it. You can probably answer your own questions. And if you then have questions still, send the email.
Oh my gosh, that's good advice overall for anything.
yeah. Read this fine print. Read to the bottom of the email. Read it all.
Yes.
Did you get an attachment with that email? Open it up, read it. Organize showcases, and the number of times that they're like, when is this due? And I'm like, well, did you get the showcase pack? I'm like, so what if you check that? And now my students are really, they're like, if we ask Corey right now, she's just going to tell us to look at the packet. And I was like, I am. So we're going to get you guys to put on your big boy and big girl panties, and you're going to look it up.
Look at the packet.
Control F is your best friend. Look at the packet.
Yes.
Or the italics words. Clearly, it's significant if it's different print.
And
We're
plan things out. Like if you know you struggle to remember when things are due, go put them on your like Google Calendar or in a planner or something like, or I know that I tend to like I remember them, but like 90% of the time. And so I don't always get to putting them in my planner. But I remember them usually like well in advance. And I'm like, well, I remember to send my music in. So why wait till the due date when I could just send it in now? Like, just do it. You'll be so much less stressed in the whole process.
I know, right? Procrastination, I feel like it's a common human flaw.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the minute to do it, we're like, oh, it's gonna take so long. I don't want to do it.
Right? It's always like that too. It's literally like that. It feels like it's gonna be like, no, and then it's like, oh, I'm done.
I should
Uh-huh.
have
I'm
this so long.
done.
I'm really bad at the like sending an like if it's something where it's like, oh, I don't have to rely on someone else, I'll do it. But I'm really bad when it's the like send this email to someone else to ask them for help with something. And I'm like, no, no. And then I push it off and I'm like, Corey, you're just making this worse for them. Like now they have less time to help you. Send the email, schedule the thing.
Funny. I- Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything else you would like to promote?
Um, I'm working on my submission for the Minx Extravaganza, and that is a fantastic show. It's a charity fundraiser for victims of sexual assault and violence. It takes place, Michelle Minx puts it on in St. Louis every year. This is like the 17th year. And I think the seventh time I'll be in it if I get in, fingers crossed, if I get into it again. Um, so just submit. It's a fantastic, like, it's a wonderful thing. I think submissions are due on the 1st for like a week from today. I'm running a little behind, but I'm gonna do it. But it's a great show, and I think that's just a really wonderful cause to like support. And it's a cool thing of like we don't always have money to donate to all the causes, but you can perform, and that can be its own form of charity, and I think that's really awesome. And you can perform and promote and like help sell tickets, and I think there's even like you can just donate in general, or I think buy even virtual passes. So like check out the Minx Extravaganza. It's like almost 100 pole pieces over 2 days. It's awesome.
I love that. I don't think I've heard of that. So exciting. Thank you so much for plugging that out there.
It's a stellar time. Also, if you're looking for a stage to get weird on, great stage to get weird on.
Too funny.
You might need a tarp, and I'm sorry about that. I'm the problem for that. But
I was gonna ask, do we get a sneak peek for what you might be presenting, or you don't want to give too much away?
um so so actually I don't even care. This is fine. Because I know Michelle's wife Kim really pretty well. We're buddies, and she also has short hair like me. And so I one year for Halloween dressed up as Kim, and Kim does all of their like she changes the poles. Like she's this figure that is there, and she's like running tech, and she's making it happen. And so I want to dress up as Kim for my pole piece and like change my pole and like coordinate with Kim to like Kim also has it is like a little suit vest and black pants and the black boots. Like it's a collared shirt. We got it. It's a whole outfit. It's a whole look, and it's quintessential Kim Neal. And so I want to like get on stage and just like pretend to be Kim and change the pole and then start pulling out some pole moves. But that means I probably need to learn more pole moves that I can do with my hands and stuff and my like feet because I'm going to be in pants. So we'll get creative.
Another costume obstacle.
It is. I keep coming up with them, and I was like, why? Why did I do this?
The obstacles make us more creative.
They do. It's it definitely makes you more creative, but you're also like get my mole, have friends. This is another thing. Just have a lot of friends who are available to help you because it takes a village to get anyone on stage. To get I performed my mole piece in the comedy showcase at PolCon, and that was in Baltimore. And when I performed it at Pole Theater, it was in St. Louis. So I drove to St. Louis and I brought my props with me. And then Crystal, who runs it, who is a friend of mine, she very, very kindly, because had to drive her aerial cube up to perform in the aerial showcase for PolCon. She very kindly let me put all of my props in her car and drive my props. So my props went on their own adventure. So they came from St. Louis and went back to Columbia, Missouri, and then drove all the way from Columbia, Missouri to Baltimore, Maryland to be used on stage. And they took up the entire back seat of her car. The hammer was like its own person. They had to they almost had to take multiple loads to get everything out of the car. I was the problem. So I love props, but also figure out how you're going to get them places, because sometimes, and have friends. So for nationals, I need a table, and I have some friends who live in Miami, and they're fantastic, and they come up every year and they watch nationals, and we have a great time. And they're about to receive a text going, "Hi, do you have a folding table, and can you take it to Orlando for me?" So find friends.
You definitely enlisted a village.
It takes so many people to get me on stage. And I don't know if it's just that that's everyone's experience, or if I'm a particularly high maintenance person.
Right. I don't usually use props because I have a hard time with them. But maybe if I realize I can have some support.
It is. Hey, if you use a human prop, they have feet. They walk themselves places. It's great. Love it. Love that they get themselves places. And it's like having a buddy on stage with you. If you've ever done doubles, it's kind of, I feel less stressed in general with doubles, because I'm well, if I mess this up, maybe they're as long as I'm not messing up a doubles trick that's endangering my friend, if I mess up something else, maybe they're looking at my doubles partner and not at me. And so having a human prop on stage is sort of oh, I got a buddy on stage. They're here with me. It's really great.
I like that. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
It changed my mind.
Yeah. Have fun. It's great.
Yes.
Too cute. Oh my goodness, we learned so much tonight. Thank you so much for this, Corey.
Yes.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, truly our pleasure. I can't wait to see what's in store for you. Winning so many championships, PSO National Pro Champion, Pole Theater Champion. So excited.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hell yeah. And thank you to all of our listeners and watchers of Paul and McCall podcast. My name is Mændy Mac.
Yeah, those are pink, and I am Cris Rivers. I love this damn chair every time.
I'm Corey Elyse.
Oh, I love those. Those are pretty.
Oh, those are the brand new ones.
Get your tickets to Vertical Desires, and you can see these heels on stage.
I love it.
Yes.
Or follow her social media if you can't make it to Vertical Desires.
Yes. I love too that your cat was like a little shark. All we saw was the tail.
Oh yeah, it's that. And Dingus, he doesn't have heels on, but
I love it.
You take virtual privates with me, you'll see so much more of my cat.
He's too damn cute.